Welcome everybody. Can I get this out of here? Go up. Okay. Whatever it is. So, welcome everybody to the Ben Milch Masterclass in digital assets. Oh, I wrote is digital assets. Sorry about that. I'm really excited that you all are here. I think that there's a lot that we're going to learn and go through over the next. I'm not really sure how many weeks, because I want to make sure that I go at a pace that works for everybody here. Some of you know more, some of you know less. I want to make sure that everybody gets it, and I want to make sure that the concepts really work for everybody. If you have any questions, you can ping me anytime during the class, after the class, whatever it is. Also, I'm obviously recording this. I'm going to post in various places. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a little bit. But let's begin. So firstly, a little bit about me. Who the heck is Ben Milch? Why is it that he thinks he has any right to teach this or anything else? Let's go over here. This is just how I present myself to the world in 3 different places or 4 different places: LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, not so much. So academically, I don't want it all the way over there. Academically, I hold a bachelor's in mathematics. I went for but never completed a master's in mathematics. Very good chance I am never going to complete it. Professionally, my first job out of school was selling financial products, life insurance, mutual funds, things like that. I also worked in quant research for a fintech company for a while, and I've spent the past 10 plus years working in tech strategy consulting, mostly in the financial sector around risk and compliance. So for people who know, KYC, know your customer, AML, anti-money laundering. If you know it, great. If you don't, it's fine. Trust me, it's not such a big deal. I've also worked in, data privacy, which is a new thing that's coming up in a lot of places. And alongside that, alongside the regulation and compliance, I've worked in data analytics, data visualizations, both within financial services and other industries. And besides that, since I guess the winter of my freshman year of college, I am now 41 years old, so we can do the math, sometime in 1999, I've been running a trading cards company. I used to call it sports cards, but by now we do stuff that's not just cards. Currently today we have 2 full-time staff in Chicago, 7 full-time staff in India, 1 part-time developer, and 2 owners. I am one of them. So that's a little bit about my background. And I really think that between the technology and the data and the finance background and, familiarity with collectibles and alternative assets, the digital asset space was kind of tailor-made for me, or at least maybe to be a little bit less obnoxious, I was tailor-made for it. But it certainly has piqued my interest over the last significant period of time. Excellent. Also, very, very quickly, this is not an investment seminar at all, not even close. I'm going to try very hard not to talk about any products. The only time I specifically mention products like Bitcoin, ETH, or something like that, it's only as an example to try to understand the concept. I'm certainly not suggesting you buy any of these things, not necessarily at any time, at any price, anything like that. And specifically, I try not to use the term digital currency. I try to use the term or the cryptocurrency. I try to use the term digital asset for a couple of reasons. I'll go back to that in a second. So firstly, some terminology. Number one, as I just said, I use the term digital assets or digital asset because really there's many, many different types, and it's important to understand really all of them. So for example, a lot of this, a lot of the genesis of this class and what we're going to speak about a little bit today and at different times, but certainly not throughout the whole class, although I know it is important. People have been speaking a lot about NFTs, which we certainly will speak about. The thing is, when a lot of people speak about NFTs, you have to understand what token they're actually speaking about. Often they're speaking about ERC 721 tokens, which are often the reason that they are usually referred to as NFTs is because they work very well with things that are not divisible. So for example, if you think about a dollar or a $100 bill, it's obviously divisible into other, other bills, coins, etc. Whereas certain NFTs, not all of them, but certain NFTs are not divisible, which we'll see shortly. So firstly, let's understand the difference between fungible and non-fungible. Right here, we have 5 $100 bills. These are non-fungible. Excuse me. These are fungible, meaning although there is a barcode, right, a unique identifier on each of these bills, fine, they are independent pieces of paper. No $100 bill is worth more or less. Maybe there's some crazy one that collectors have, I don't really know. But without loss of generality, no $100 bill is worth any more or less than any other $100 bill. This is a NFT. It happens to be an NFT. It's also a ticket, as we see right here. This is a ticket verifiable for admission to VCon 2022, 2023, and 2024. This is an NFT that I own. Now, as any asset, you can define ownership, who owns what percentage, how much. That said, a ticket to an event which takes place in the physical world can only be attended by one person. So this is a non-fungible, non-divisible asset in that only one person will be able to use this ticket for admission to this particular conference and not any other people. So this is an example of a non-fungible asset, which is also non-divisible. Are there any questions that people have? I really didn't necessarily think I would ask that question, but just look if anybody raised their hand or nobody texted me. Excellent. Good stuff. We'll keep going. Now, one thing that's important to understand about NFTs or really digital assets in general. Oh. Yeah, Ben.
Yeah, you said that dollar bills are fungible and that $1 bill is not worth more than the other. And then you said whatever this thing is non-fungible because it's a ticket and only one person can attend that event. I don't see how you're. First of all, I don't know what fungible or non-fungible means, but I don't see how those don't seem like opposites. Like $100 bill can be worth more or less than the other, and this ticket can only be this event can only be attended by one person. Like how are you contrasting those two concepts?
Ben, thank you very much. I apologize that I wasn't clear enough. I was attempting to talk about two different concepts and differences between them. So the first concept was the idea of fungibility versus non-fungibility. A fungible asset is like a dollar bill or $100 bill in that no one is any different than the other one. A non-fungible asset is unique in that it is specific and no other one is exactly like it. For example, while my house, I am currently in a house, you can find comparisons, same number of bedrooms, square feet, etc., even street, location, whatever. That said, each house is non-fungible, right? Because each one is unique. Second from that, I was also talking about divisibility, which is a separate thing. A dollar or $100 bill is divisible in that you can give me a $100 bill, I can give you back 5 20s, and the exchange is the exact same. However, with certain digital assets, for example, a ticket, it is not divisible in that if I own a ticket and I cut it in half and give half to you and half to me, we can't both use the ticket. Only one of us can use the ticket. Did that make sense?
Yes, gotcha.
Awesome. And sorry, again, this is the first time we're going through the class, so appreciate that one.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Oh. Will Marcus, what's up?
Hey, Ben. The chameleon thing on the next slide, it says like number 1680 or D, I can't really see, but
1680, yeah.
So does that mean that there are 1600 of these chameleons and therefore it's like each person having a unique $100 bill, right?
No, it's actually the exact opposite. There were exactly 10,000, I think, 255 tickets created, And this is the only ticket that is number 1680, which is in this case, a rare charismatic chameleon, which is the image on the ticket.
But wouldn't there also be only one of each ID number on the $100 bill, or else it's a counterfeit?
That's true, but money is fungible in that they are worth the exact same, whereas a ticket to an event is not necessarily worth the exact same because each one is unique. Each one represents an individual seat, which might have more, which is not the same as any other seat.
I see.
Excellent. So, excellent. So one of the things, and thank you very, very much for all the questions. I do appreciate it. So one of the things that's really going to be interesting, we're going to talk a lot more about it in upcoming classes. What's up, Dimitri? We're going to talk about it more in other classes, is this concept of a smart contract. And the smart contract is really where digital assets really get a lot of power from. So very quickly, we want to, again, go slowly so everybody can understand the concepts. And also it is, at least on the East Coast, 9:47 p.m. People can be tired. A smart contract is essentially a bunch of code which govern processes for a transaction. So for example, you could have a mortgage contract that defines when payments are due, and when those payments come in, what happens to that money? Is there a commission paid out over here? Does it go to the principal over there? Does it go to the interest somewhere else? There could be very large, complex contracts or easy contracts. Now, for a little bit of another glimpse, I quickly looked on LinkedIn today, and I looked at the number of attorneys that I know that I'm just connected to, first person, and I found that there are 32 of them. And when we think about smart contracts, one of the things that I think about is that the only thing that takes longer for attorneys to do than negotiate the terms of a contract is negotiate or debate what that language means the second that ink dries and there's a dispute. Are there any lawyers on the call that want to verify that that is true? David Rubenstein? Not on the call, or he is, or he's not, I don't know. I don't know if that worked. The call out, whatever it is. I thought it was funny. Anyway. Now, let's go back a little bit, or let's go forward, however you want to think about it. When I first heard about Bitcoin, I knew for sure that it was going to be a thing. And the reason I knew it was going to be a thing is because it essentially works, and we're going to get much more into the technology as we go on, but it essentially works the way you wish all of life worked. In most of life, there are supply chains and things that go wrong and degradation of quality and things that didn't get printed correctly or mistakes that were made by human error or machines or whatever. In a digital world, none of that happens. Things transfer exactly as they're supposed to. So when I first heard about Bitcoin, I knew for sure that it was going to be a thing. However, I didn't buy any. And I didn't buy for two reasons. Number one, I didn't have any money. Early in my career, had some kids, didn't have any money. But two, I knew that the concept would be a thing, but I didn't know which coin would be a thing. And at the time I thought to myself, until you actually buy a cup of coffee with it, it's not a currency, it's a bet. And I'm in general not a betting person. Then later on, I found this conference that I wanted to attend, and the only ticket to the conference was an NFT, and the NFT was sold in ETH. So automatically, to me, right away, ETH went from a speculative bet on the future of money to a necessary coin I needed to purchase something that I wanted in the physical world. Now, what I want to talk about is this use case of a ticket and how it came to me and how it works. And that's where we're going to end for tonight, just understanding how this will work. On April 5th of this year, I got my second COVID vaccination. I live in Clifton. I got a chance to take it at Atlantic City. So I drove down there. It took most of the morning. Fine. As I'm driving, I'm listening to a podcast, and I call my best friend, David Rubin. I'm listening to a podcast about NFTs, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking about how they can work. And I wasn't thinking about it from an investing standpoint. I was thinking about it from a creator standpoint, and what kind of NFTs I would create and use in business. And all of a sudden it clicked, and I said to myself, tickets are so going to be NFTs. This is before I purchased this NFT. This is when I just thought about it. So I called Dave and I told him about it. And then I found this article, which was actually published a good 2 weeks before I had the idea, that Mark Cuban was thinking of turning Dallas Mavericks tickets into NFTs. I texted Dave about it, and his answer was, "You're too slow." So what I wanted to finish off this evening was how I knew, before I ever saw a ticket as an NFT, how I knew tickets were going to be NFTs. And I think that this use case is a good first one. There will be others to understand why this space is so important and how it's going to work for us a little bit. First, let's look from the Maverick side. What is the incentive for Mark Cuban and the Mavericks to put out NFTs? Well, number one, it cuts out the middleman. Right now, they have to use some ticket processing organization because the ability to process transactions is a whole other business, and it's not something that they're interested in doing. And also, while digital tickets are okay, they're actually not as secure as we think. Quick little story. Right now, I'm married. I got married about a year ago for the second time. I don't really remember when it was, but some time ago, my wife now, who I was dating at the time, purchased for me a ticket to a concert that I really wanted to go to. It was the first gift she ever got for me. It was a really big deal. Go to see a band I really like called Guster, Saturday evening, Beacon Theater, really excited. We go through the whole day. Evening comes, we get ready, we go to the Beacon Theater, we got the ticket. It was purchased on StubHub, I think. We go, we show it to them. False ticket. What do you mean? We bought it on StubHub, the thing, false ticket. So really, the kind of digital tickets that we have now are not as secure as we'd like them to be, because they are not actual digital assets, and they are governed by these central exchanges. And it's possible to game the system by having two disparate systems. So number one, the Mavericks can cut out that middleman, which gives them much more of the revenue because they no longer have to deal with Ticketmaster. Now you might say, well, what about all those processes? Who's going to deal with those things? The answer is that the blockchain itself, which we'll get into again later, that processes these transactions, I might be a little bit confusing right now, but essentially by minting NFTs on the blockchain, the Mavericks will have the ability to have individual miners process those transactions at a lesser fee than Ticketmaster or Live Nation, and in a much more secure area, a much more secure method. That's number one. Number two, we mentioned smart contracts before as a way of governing transactions. The Mavericks have the ability, as I'm sure they will do, to add within their smart contract a commission that pays them not only when they originally sell it, but every consecutive time that NFT is sold, they'll get a commission. What that does is it creates an incentive for the Mavericks to make sure that that thing gets sold over and over again. So they have an additional source of revenue. And the way that they do that is by adding value through the existing asset. It also creates a way for them to have increased engagement with their audience, which I'll get into in much more detail. And it's an inexpensive form of branding for the Mavericks. Now, by that, I mean, if you've ever gone to any sporting event, Yankee game, or wherever it is, and they have a bunch of people there, and they're trying to get people to sign up for Capital One credit cards. And they're like, hey, we'll give you a t-shirt that says Yankees and Capital One on it if you sign up for this thing. So that's a branding that they're also trying to sell you, but that t-shirt is branding for them. You're going to wear a t-shirt that says New York Yankees and Capital One and whatever it is. But in order to get that, they have to come up with people to design those shirts. They have to come up with people to design the whole strategy for that giveaway. They have to print them. They have to ship them. They have to hire people to give them out. And then you only wear that shirt like 3 times a year, and it's only branding in front of the people that see it. In this case, the Mavericks can create a much easier digital asset, which is seen by 24 hours a day within the blockchain by anybody who's interested in it. Now, what's the benefit to the buyer? Firstly, portability or resale. Right now, most of the things that we purchase online as digital formats, we don't actually buy. We actually lease them or rent them. For example, a book that you buy on Amazon Books or Google Books or whatever it happens to be, you have no actual rights to it. You don't own it. If you switch phones to a different platform, you no longer have it. With a digital asset, you are not necessarily tied to the specific platform, and you have the ability to resell it to somebody else, which gives you the ability to spend more money on it because you know that there's some value to it reselling. Fine. Also, a public ledger. With each asset being saved within the blockchain, there is not accountability. There is transparency into who owns what, and should be no confusion as to the rights to things. Now, when I talk about rights, again, I'm not just talking about hypothetical ownership of things, but I'm talking about actual ownership in either physical assets or rights or things of that nature. And finally, condition. When you purchase physical assets, they degrade over time. When you purchase digital assets, they don't. So if you are a person who collects tickets to old Grateful Dead concerts, that ticket from 1969 is going to be very beat up. But if you buy digital tickets to events, those tickets will never decrease in value. If you buy an old book or a manuscript, those won't ever decrease in value. Now, how is it going to happen? How do I know that that's going to happen and that you'll be forced to have digital assets? Number one, and Mark Cuban has already discussed this, so I'm not telling you anything that's so radical. I don't know if he's gone through this whole list, but it's fairly obvious. Number one, NFTs are going to be offered as an option to ticket holders. You still buy the ticket through Ticketmaster, Live Nation, whatever it is, and they'll offer you the option to get an NFT either with your season pass or with your ticket, whatever it happens to be. And there might even be different levels. Secondly, they're going to give additional benefits only to NFT holders. Maybe it'll be meet and greets, maybe it'll be specific memorabilia, maybe it'll be other specific rights, which will create an additional need for people to get the NFTs. At a certain point, there will be a critical mass of ticket holders that request NFTs, and at that point, the ticket will be exclusively via NFT. Once that point happens, you will now be required to own it if you want the access. I'm going to stop here for a moment and see if there's any further questions. All right, I don't see any. Is there somebody with their hand raised? No, still the same one. So that's what I had to discuss for this evening. My goal was to give you a general introduction into digital assets and how they are going to definitely be important within our lives, and a little bit about one of the use cases. As we go forward, we'll have many other use cases, get much more in depth into the technology, not in a way that's not relevant, but only enough so that we can make actionable decisions and understand. I certainly appreciate your feedback. Now, when it comes to payment, this class is completely free. I'm not charging anybody for anything. what I would really, really appreciate, and again, there's full transparency, I'm going to be publishing this either in its whole or in parts in different places on various platforms, YouTube, Instagram, etc. I would really, really appreciate if you would not only like it, but also comment meaningful comments, even if it's negative. I liked it, I hated it, he was too boring, he was too obvious, he said stuff that didn't make any sense, he was a liar. Whatever it is, that's what I'm looking for. Who pays for payments of the block ledger? That is a really, really good question. So what you're really, the answer is that all of the miners essentially add to the blockchain. The blockchain is essentially running out of time. We've removed the 4-minute limit on your group meeting. Oh, thank you. So the answer to that question is that all of the individual miners together maintain the blockchain by verifying transactions and adding blocks to the chain. We'll get much more into that as we go forward, but the answer is that the entire community on whatever particular blockchain we're discussing. What's up, Alex?
Hi, Ben. You mentioned that there's an ability for the public to see what's in every individual NFT
Yes.
on a blockchain.
Yes.
What about for like health information? If someone wanted to store health information on a blockchain, would that be possible to have some type of ability to prevent others from to see to some aspect what's inside, or any ability to prevent entirely viewing what's inside the NFT?
So very, very, very good question. So there's a couple different things, right? So firstly, the public ledger provides transparency on who owns what. It doesn't necessarily provide all of the information therein. For example, let's say I am a book publisher and I want to get more of the action on publishing books and less of the cost, right? So I am going to put out a new Harry Potter book. Harry Potter has a very, very big community of people who are interested in it. I don't necessarily need to go through a distributor. What I can do is I can sell an NFT of that book, which gives people access to the digital copy of the book. So the NFT that you see in a public wallet is not the entire text of the book, but it says that, you know, Benjamin Milch owns this particular copy of the book, and then access to the book is accessed with the NFT, but it's not available publicly. Certain similar things could be done for other kinds of access to certain information, but also not necessarily everything needs to be saved within the blockchain. It's more about transactions of moving things, either valuable things, currencies, amounts, or rights and accesses or assets, instead of exclusively storing information. Did that answer your question? I hope so. Yes, Will, I am certainly going to get more into smart contracts. There's a lot to say there, and I did want to, again, I'm trying to understand everybody's level of where they are in their understanding, and also I promised people that I'd make it like 25 to 30 minutes or so. So I certainly want to respect that. My goal right now is just to make sure that I had one example of something that I hope was digestible for people to get their first understanding of what one kind of smart contract might be. Mr. Al Gutman.
No, yeah, hi.
What's
This
up?
goes back to the thing I asked before.
Yeah.
If there are all these various miners who are verifying or whatever they do on the blockchain, I don't know the right terminology.
Sure.
I still don't understand what they get out of it when they do, let's say your ticket example of the Mavericks. Who gives them incentive for the time, effort, electricity, computer stuff that it takes to, maintain their network and be part of the chain? I mean, I can't imagine they're doing it out of joy.
For sure, they are not doing it out of joy. It's a very, very good question. It's actually one of the places that I started. I think we're going to get to that either next week or the week after. I'm not trying to push you off. It's just longer than a couple minutes.
Okay, thanks.
Excellent. But I certainly will get there for sure, because it's very, very important, both in the short term and in the long term, because it does change. And it's also not the same for different blockchains. Just very, very quickly. Bitcoin, for example, is a limited resource. There's only going to be 21 million and there aren't going to be any more. Obviously, again, it's a divisible asset, so it can be divided. ETH is not a limited resource. So kind of like the USD, more Ethereum can be introduced into the ecosystem, into the blockchain, if needed. But we'll get certainly more into that in the next session or two. Any other questions that people had? Excellent. So everybody, thank you so much for attending. Again, I am going to put all this stuff up on various places, and I would really, really, really appreciate if you would like it and comment. Oh, there's something else. Oh, by all means, well. Thank you so much for joining. Please give me your comments again. I'm trying to be as engaging as possible, but this is my first time doing this, so we're going to get better as we go along. Have a great evening, everybody. Ping me if you need. Have a good one.